Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. Ooh, hold on a second. Oh, okay. Yep, there we go. Boom. Welcome to Adversary, my adversary. The most adversarial podcast on YouTube. I just made that one up in a flick like that, I guess. So, you guys, we asked you if you wanted a part 2 on the conservative traditional values in the occult. And most of you said yes, so we figured that let's do it. So sorry this didn't come last week. We were just a bit, busy. I think the internet was out, and so that was kind of a bit of an issue. But we're back, so welcome. So to start out everything, let's talk about going-ons and happenings and things that we have that we're doing. So me, I have a course starting February 15th on Baphomet, calling it like the intro to Baphometic tradition. So going through the centuries of kind of iterations of Baphomet in different formats, in different cultures, primarily across Europe, and also how to start working with Baphomet, right, in a ritual format, like kind of things that take into consideration while kind of begin that process of working. I think that's like the biggest thing that I've got going on. Both of us will be at the Glastonbury Occult Conference, also in February, that same weekend, actually. There's that part of it. It is a big weekend. So, what do you got going on?
What have I got going on? A lot. So, my latest project at the moment is my program in Asia now, which is a program for a powerful and effective practice. So it is a 6-month long program. It needs to be 6 months long with how much that it covers, and it involves a lot of group work as well as one-on-one mentoring, so getting the best of both worlds there, connecting a community of people, as well as getting your one-on-one teacher time with me, where I can answer your questions and give you a little bit more of a custom teaching, if you like, more your specific needs and questions regarding the program. Also doing group rituals every other Friday. I did one this evening with Lilith, which was so if you're interested in those are happening every Friday. I also have my memberships going on as well for my monthly workshops, and thinking about spicing this up a bit with something, just with some new stuff, just new perks. So look out for that. Yeah, I'd say that is the main stuff.
Awesome. All right, cool. So that being said, cannot break through it.
I do the weekly return. Let me go and get a deck.
Okay.
Should have been more prepared. I forgot that this. Yeah, no.
It is what it is. Curse, what's up? How's it going? Filthy Rich Punk. I kind of like that name. It's a bit of an oxymoron. Makes it fun. And Land-Based Magic. How's it going? Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Also, just to let everybody know, we're also live on TikTok. Over there just for shits and giggles because we can. There's no particular reason to be live on TikTok. Our audience base is here in YouTube, but figured screw it. We'll go live on TikTok as well. The TikTok, we can see the chat. If you got something to say, if you got an opinion, if anybody's got an opinion, TikTok or YouTube, on what it is that we're talking about, then feel free to drop that opinion. What deck are you gonna? Are you?
This is the Morgan Greer deck. I picked this out because I haven't used it in a long time, and I actually really like this deck. It's very traditional, kind of Rider-Waite-esque in a way, but also not. A bit more colourful and more keeps to the kind of traditional tarot art, which I like. So let's look at those new here. These readings are specifically around our relationships, not just romantic, but relationships as a whole. So
and for those of you over on TikTok, we will figure out how to get the vertical video on TikTok, so that way you guys get the full screen instead of the bar at the top the way you have it right now. Yeah, just new to streaming on TikTok.
okay, so the first card we have is the Six of Pentacles. So the imagery is very interesting because you can have scales, yeah. And the man holding his coin, deciding who he's going to give it to. So I think this is pointing to a lot about balance in our relationship, giving our time to. Are we putting all our eggs in one basket? If you are dating currently, are you putting all your eggs in one basket? And should you be doing that? Is this person deserving of it? And just generally in your life, are you putting too much time into a particular relationship? So this could be out of just like maybe a lack of focus on or getting too invested in something, but it could also be unhealthy to a point of like maybe there's some codependency going on here. So this is just pay attention to that. Pay attention to where your relationships might currently be imbalanced. The King of Pentacles, this is what it looks like. Upright. Ooh. And this came out reversed. So the King of Pentacles reversed implies that there's some kind of overindulgence, which kind of points to this balance that we're trying to aim for here. And this is kind of like what's the balance that's currently off. So again, it's putting all your eggs in one basket, but also there's kind of like a selfish part to it as well, right? So are you being selfish with your time? Are you not giving enough? Because this is about give and take, right? The give and take needs to be equal, and this suggests that either you're not giving enough or too much has been taken from you. The King of Pentacles in reverse could either be you or it could be someone in your life. But either someone is taking too much from you or you are taking too much from somebody else. Then finally we have the Emperor. Nice, strong, divine masculine card here. So this is about boundaries, in this reading in particular. About being boundaried with your energy. You get to make these choices. No one else is taking this control from you. It's about remembering that you're the one in control. You're the one that dictates how much energy you give to people. So that's the focus of this week. About where you are delegating this energy. Is it balance? Is it worthwhile? Is it draining? Have a think about it.
Short, sweet, straight to the point.
Yeah, it was very straight to the point.
Yeah.
That's the message this week, very straight to the point.
I think balance is kind of an important thing across the board. Entire life, and there needs to be some level of balance in there. Also, just quickly, Viking Warrior Fit, I saw you hop in here. I don't know if you're still in here. and the TikTok. How's it going?
Oh.
So I just wanted to say hi. So, yeah, and Rena says, I'm a Libra, scales make sense. Yeah, there he is. So, oh, thank you. I don't know what you just gifted, but thank you. Greatly appreciate that. So, yeah, it's going all right, man. It's going all right. I'm welcome to the live, man. So for those of you that are new to just kind of like everything that we do, so there's a lot that we do individually, and there's a lot that we do together. Adversary of My Adversary is our podcast together, where we kind of take an interesting outlook on the podcast format, talking about our relationship and as being occultists, and how that relationship, works, occult wise and relationship wise, like going kind of like back and forth, right? Does the occult side of it affect it? Does being in a relationship affect the occult side? Those types of things, right? And then we have Apocrypha, which is Saturdays at the same time, right? 7 p.m. Central Standard. We do Apocrypha, which is more of kind of like the big conversation podcast, right? So the big conversation podcast is quite literally just kind of whatever's on the table and just having a big, huge discussion on it. There's 4 of us that are generally on it. Myself, Black Witch Dyra, Mystic Salon, and his partner Rook. And we also get a lot of guests that come on there in different paths and pantheons and things like that, and just go ham on the discussion, right? And everything is open to discussion. I think with the majority of the podcasts, with both of these podcasts, I think discussion is encouraged. We don't want to have an echo chamber, going on or anything like that. Buddy that used to do tarot readings, very cool site. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Divination is amazing. Good stuff. Like a lot of different ways to go about it. And then I have my solo thing that I do on Sundays when I have the opportunity to actually do it, called Satan and Coffee.
You will be doing it this week, won't you?
Yes, this week I don't foresee anything happening that's going to stop me from doing it. So I have Satan and Coffee, which I just call it Satan Coffee, Sunday Black Mass. And it's kind of like my opportunity to kind of like really kind of dive into, I'm sorry, I'm reading chat, and so it's like kind of like I'm kind of throwing myself off here. It's my opportunity to just kind of like dive in and go crazy with stuff, right? Rune readings. I have runes. I actually use runes in conjunction with tarot cards. So weird they come out the same. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like how you do it. Like if you have different divination techniques or different things to your disposal, you can kind of go into it and like do different readings with different readings at the same time with different methods and come out with very similar or the same responses from divination point, right? So now for the topic at hand. So the topic at hand that we're going to be talking about is what would be traditional values or non-political conservatism inside of the occult, right? Now here's the thing, okay? Traditional values spreads like a really big, broad spectrum of things. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we are politically conservative. I think politically speaking, we are, I guess, a little bit more right-leaning than we are left-leaning in our ideals when it comes to freedom of speech and things like that. Both of us agree that we think that the world has become ridiculously sensitive to absolutely everything. And it muddies the waters. So
Yeah, I mean, I think what's now become conservatism is more just like old school liberalism.
Yep.
And, you know, we've both said before that like 10 years ago, we both really considered ourselves liberal. And just as, I don't know, the left's kind of become a little bit unhinged or a lot unhinged, you know, not like it's a thing, like people have left the left because of how weird it's become. So yeah.
Yeah, and DA, you're 100% correct. You know, you're 100% correct in the idea that in the U.S., I wouldn't say extremist Christians. I mean, extremist is kind of like, I mean, it's one of those words that's kind of lost its meaning. Like, I mean, there have been a couple of Christians that have tried to like burn down the Satanic Temple in Salem, Massachusetts.
That's extremist.
That's extremist. But there's not many Christians trying to blow themselves up or blow buildings up or, you know, anything like that. So that's kind of like where I draw the line and say like that whatever this is, like, you know, this is extremism. You know.
Yeah, or like Christians shooting up abortion clinics or
yeah,
something
exactly,
like that.
exactly. But I do totally agree that most of the time when you talk about traditional values, and this is the thing, this is the reason why we wanted to do this podcast, because there might not be a big hole for, you know, traditionalists, like occultists that have traditional values, or conservative occultists, or whatever you want to like label us, you know. But both of us are get very irritated when we find, like, you know, political speakers or people that, you know, do talk, you know, like give those types of opinions like on social issues that we agree with, and then, you know, 15 minutes into a video or something, they're like, you know, I just want to give thanks to God, and like, dude, you just fucking ruined it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you ruined it, and like,
'cause it makes it sound like that's part of it, and that's like required in order to be.
Yep, exactly.
You know, in that, within that ideology. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly,
you let the cat out?
No.
Outside.
No, he's yeah.
I can hear a cat yowling. But yeah, so this is this stream is kind of a part 2, isn't it?
Yeah.
The last time we talked about this
To which
topic.
let me actually open up this one. Yeah, it was this one. So we were kind of like halfway through it, right? It does seem like when I hear yeah, you know, like it's like, and there's nothing wrong. We're not saying that there's anything wrong with being Christian, unless you're one of those Christians that like come in and want to convert everybody. Like, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like, let everybody believe what they want to believe.
I also think that like maybe traditional isn't necessarily the best fitting term all of the time, because like, for example, like me and you, we both talk a lot about how we think polyamory is insane and disgusting. And I don't think that's necessarily a traditional value. I think that's just like a norm.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to things like polyamory, it's not a case of like, oh, we're just traditional. It's just like, no, we just think that the idea of fucking other people is gross. Like,
yeah. Now, polyamory is where like the couple has other couples. Like, so it's like,
that's polygamy. Polygamy is when men have multiple wives, like in Mormons in Utah.
Yeah,
that's a good example of it. Polygamy, and also in Islam as well. Polyamory is when you have multiple romantic or sexual partners. So like people will have a spouse, but they'll also have girlfriends, boyfriends, friends with benefits, and stuff like that. And it, for me, it's just like, I just can't imagine that. Like, it would make me feel like, I can just imagine that, like, even if I didn't think that there was like a moral problem with it, I would think that like that would have a really bad effect on my mental health.
Yeah, same.
Like, it would just fuck me up.
No, yeah,
Like,
it could totally fuck. It was just like, I mean, like it's just yeah. I mean, the whole idea of like like a one individual person just being enough. That I mean, it's just fucking ridiculous. As long as it's consensual, fine. I mean, for that group of people, right? Like, I mean,
sure.
it's not like so. There's one thing that needs to be really clear, right? Where we are by no means saying that other people need to agree with what values we have. It's just I think it's become overly popularized that people can't have opinions on shit anymore.
And if you do, you're authoritarian, and that's like we're not saying you can't be polyamorous, it's disgusting. We're saying for us, like, we think it's vile. Like, but like if other people want to do it, then it doesn't fucking affect our lives. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, so that's kind of where that kind of comes from, with anything that we really talk about, right? People are going to make their own choices, and that's one of the big things about, what the occult is, and why a lot of people think that like conservatism or like the traditional values or stuff like that doesn't play well with occultism, because occultism, most occultists generally kind of have this very, adversarial kind of outlook on things, or kind of like rather rebellious outlook. And I think rebellion, it's not just rebellion against the status quo, right? Like, I mean, it's rebellion against whatever it is that you're rebelling against, right? If you think about it, leftism has kind of become the status quo. It's like there's two different types of status quo. There's a social status quo, and then there's a political status quo. And both of them are going head to head, and both are rebellious to the other, right? Like, so there's almost like this double-sided kind of adversarial conflict happening in the world right now that I've never seen. Like, I'm 38 fucking years old. I've seen quite a few presidents come and go, and administrations and stuff like that, between Bush, the Clintons, Obama, Trump, Biden. I've seen like quite a few presidencies roll on through, and I've never seen this level of division with people.
You were around for Ronald Reagan.
I mean, I was shitting myself, but I was shitting in my pants during the Reagan one, so like, but yeah, I mean, I was breathing during the Reagan administration.
I was a conscious sentient being
that had no idea what the fuck was going on.
Sitting there fucking mouthing off about Reagan. Oh, fucking Reagan.
That's great. That's great.
Oh dear. Anyway, back on topic. Also, hello Mo. Thank you for joining us. Where did we get up to last time? So we got up to.
We got halfway through it, I think. So we're kind of sitting around. Yeah, I think. No, we did this one. So we're here 6, 7, 8.
Examples of compatibility, the importance of structure and protocol when working with demons. That sounds so incredibly off topic to what we've been talking about, but we promise it is relevant. But it's about oh, do you want to elaborate on that for me? Because the words aren't coming out.
So the way that a lot of people look at it is they look at, if you think of being conservative compared to being liberal, is that conservatism is very regimented, and that being liberal is very kind of loose, like loose fitted, right? It's not, it's not exactly, it's not that there isn't structure, but it's just kind of more open to everything, right? And so in this one, it's traditionalism and demonology and rituals, right? The importance of structure and protocol. So when working in demonolatry, that should have been demonolatry, not demonology. Demonology is the study of demons. Demonolatry is the working of demons. So, you're working them, you're putting them on the corner, right? You get that money. So the importance of structure and protocol when working in demonolatry, it is extremely important to have a regimented focus when you're working inside of that realm of things, working with the infernal. And it's not because it's necessarily dangerous per se. It can be, but consistency is key when doing anything in the occult, not just demonolatry. If you're not consistent with the shit that you do, you're not going to get the results that you're looking to get. It's just that simple. And conservatism lends itself to being very regimented, right? Having those kind of like traditional values is like needing to do the work, right? That you don't want just something to like drop in your lap. I mean, it's not that you don't want it. I mean, everybody wants something to drop in their lap and not do anything. But how often does that actually really happen? Not very often at all. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at having the structure and having the protocol and being able to kind of move ourselves forward by putting the work in, right? Which is the big thing. What would you add to it?
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be discipline. There needs to be responsibility. And there's no room for any kind of lack of accountability or victim mentality or anything like that. Like, it really kind of baffles me when I see people with such a victim mentality working with demons. I'm sort of like, they not called you out on this shit yet? Like,
Right.
yeah. So when the whole, okay, right, I'm gonna get a little bit political now, but it's no more than what I've said on my Instagram already. Because like after the US election, I made a video basically saying about how people were using the kind of infernals, not just infernals, but any kind of deities they were working with, going like, Lucifer is mad, Lilith is mad, that, Trump won the election.
Right.
And I'm just like, you actually believe that shit? Like, you actually fucking believe that? Where is your personal kind of accountability for your feelings? Why do you need them to be validated by this like infernal being? Do you know what I mean? Can't you just be mad? Can you just be mad without like involving them into like your political narrative? Because it's insulting. Like, not personally to me, obviously, like it's got nothing to do with me, but like I get this kind of vicarious feeling of like feeling insulted, because it's kind of like, if someone was to speak on my behalf that I'm mad about something in order to back up my point when it has nothing to do with me, I would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So this is what I mean when it kind of baffles me when people have that kind of mindset and ideology, but they claim to be practicing demonolatry. I'm just like, you're kind of missing some key ingredients here. Just from my stance, anyway. Like, I'm not about to sit here and go like, oh, I know all about demonolatry and I'm the most experienced and seasoned practitioner in the world. Like, I'm fucking not. I've got less of a decade of experience in this. But I'm speaking from my experience and what has been required of me and what I have seen of other people. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the incessant necessity to try to make anything and everything overly political, right? Like, I mean, there's somebody commented on that video saying that occultism apparently, and that
shit's all over threads at the moment as well. Like, witchcraft is inherently political. I'm just like, well, what fucking change are you making? Like, you claim that like all of this stuff needs to change and you're not doing anything. You're on threads, man. It's just like activism. I'm an activist. No, you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
You should be embarrassed. If anyone wants to see how to politically revolt Go to fucking France. Those guys know how to riot.
Scotland.
Against
you guys.
I mean, from what I've seen, France just don't give a shit when they.
I mean, William Wallace. We had that conversation last night.
Yeah, but I'm talking like modern day.
Oh, okay, modern,
like,
yeah. And Valhalla, yeah, I'm the same way, right? With some things very regimented, and other things just kind of, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, and I'm really starting to hate the fucking word inherently, because like it's always like inherently connected to like something being inherently political.
It's such an absolute statement. Like,
right?
This is inherent. Like, no, it's not. Oh my god.
Like,
yeah, like witchcraft was inherently political, probably like in the fucking medieval times when politics was directly against you being a witch.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No, it's the same thing as like people saying that goth is inherently political. It's like no, it's the complete opposite actually. And if you follow the history of it, I talked about this last time, but I'm going to reiterate the point. Is, you know, if you look at goth was created off the backside of the punk movement, and the punk movement was definitely inherently political. Like, I mean, you couldn't. You know, you couldn't not be a punk and not be political. Like it just is one and the same. Goth came off the backside of punk to remove the politics from the movement, right? All right, so I don't know what this is.
Just type in 1, 2, 3,
4. I don't know why it's like that. Was some weird
his TikToks told him to get off of TikTok. He has to put in a code.
Can you use witchcraft for activism? Right on. Just stop the virtue signaling. Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah,
it's just virtue signaling. It really is.
Yeah, I never thought witchcraft would be added into politics, but everything is becoming political.
I mean, the best kind of example of witchcraft being used in politics is like Romania, right? Because for the longest time, witches did not have to pay taxes in Romania. And it's actually only been over the last couple of years or so, it might have even been in the last year, that witches in Romania now have to pay taxes. Because witches are actually very well recognized in that part of the world.
Very cool.
So, you know, that they're... I think because they're of like the traveler origin, and like you know, it's been a generational thing. They are recognized. They're a recognized kind of body or a group of people by the government. And for the longest time, they didn't have to pay taxes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You're part Romanian? Rock on. Just the sizing these things. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Valhalla, definitely. I mean, people are making everything inherently political. All right, so
inherently.
Yeah, it's really starting to irritate me every time I see that fucking word connected to that. This is inherently political. That is inherently political. Milk is inherently racist. It's like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, the term picnic is apparently racist as well.
That's. And this stuff comes from people that can't actually, like, that don't take the time to sit down to do 5 minutes of research.
Yeah, there's no critical thinking involved. If you are going off of the back of just something that you've read online, that like picnic is a racist term, and not like, it literally takes 2 seconds to Google it and find out that it's not. So what was the other one? Good morning.
Yeah,
Good morning as well. That was a brilliant one.
Yeah.
That being racist.
I mean, that one actually got some traction though.
Yeah.
Like that one, there were people that were actually
people like, oh my god! Like,
right.
even that 2-second Google search, and you can.
Maybe if we spelt it, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. See, for the sake of argument, let me just tell you what picnic actually means. So the term picnic is from the French pique-nique, which came from how birds peck. So it's about pecking on food, right? But I don't think I need to tell you why people ever assumed why it's a racist term, because of if you replace nick and add a few letters and move some things around, what that turns into, it was then...
That's also where the term peckish comes from, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, so that I'm feeling peckish.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I want to peck at something.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Oh god, my brain just went somewhere. I was going to say it doesn't mean that you want to peck on people of other ethnic backgrounds. It means you want to peck at food.
Right, exactly. You know, yeah, that's a stretch. Yeah, exactly.
It's such a reach. It's such a reach.
Yeah, exactly. So the next part of this is family-centered occult practices, right? So there was find the word. Yes. There.
Yep.
Well, Peter Piper was racist.
Oh God, what wasn't? I know that voodoo and hoodoo were used to go together. Yeah, they absolutely were, because it was happening to them and affecting them. Yeah, exactly. Like, they obviously, the practitioners of those practices had to do it in order to have their practice survive through them and through their generations, and also to protect themselves against who was oppressing them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the family-centered occult practices, right? So how to involve family in rituals without compromising it. Right? And this one's pretty easy, right? Like, I mean, as far as conservatism is concerned, at least modern day conservatism and value is to each their own. Is the understanding that we might not agree on certain things, chaos magic, but you know, we don't fight each other, but we might have a heated discussion, right?
Or I might ignore you.
That was not cool. That was not cool at all. That was not cool at all. I was not a fan. But you know, there might be like a heated discussion. But at the end of the day, it's just, you know, do your own thing. You know, if that's what has you fulfilled, that's what has you, you know, happy. That's okay. Just don't push it onto me, and I'm not going to push my shit onto you, because anything that you believe in, anything that you do for yourself is perfectly fine. If you need to do something for yourself, whatever that thing is, I'm not going to even give you any examples. Doesn't matter what it is. If the thing that you need to do for yourself, you need to do, then do it. Don't push your ideology onto other people because you think you're right. Right? That's where things become a problem. Because when you begin to start telling people that they're wrong with what they believe to be right for them, you inevitably will start conflict. Yes, it is. So that is where kind of like that comes in. So how to involve family in rituals if they want to be involved. Right? Like if you're doing something that's like a group kind of setup or something that can involve another person and they want to be involved, also there's an understanding, wait until you're invited. Right? Don't just jump into somebody else's practice. You know, how is this connected to like traditional value? I mean, it's, if you take the evangelical part out of conservatism, the evangelical part out of, you know, traditional values, traditional ideas. When you take that thing out of it, when you take the evangelical aspect out of it, you're left with something that is rather nice to deal with, right? The thing that makes most conservatives, or a lot of conservatives, a pain in the fucking ass is that evangelical, like, underlining tone with everything that they do, because they're constantly trying to save you, right? This is why we don't say that we align ourselves like to political conservatism necessarily, because we don't like that aspect of it, that there's only absolutes in right and wrong, right? We don't like looking at absolutes in right and wrong, because when you try to make a right and a wrong absolute, you miss the gray areas, right? Now, are there certain things that are absolutes? Of course, all right? And I hate the fact that I have to say that, right? That you can't infer that, like that there are certain absolutes, like murder. Murder's not a good thing, right? Sexual assault, not a good thing, right? You know, those types of things, not good.
You're meant to say SA now.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So and see that's the other aspect of it. So my biggest thing when I was younger, I was a full on leftist when I was younger. High school, college, full on leftist. And in those time periods, the reason why I had such a great appreciation for leftism was because it stood for freedom of speech. It stood for freedom of expression. And to a certain degree, it still stands for freedom of expression. It still does stand for that. But it's the fact that there's this like just constant action of trying to shut people down that you disagree with, instead of trying to have a conversation and find a middle ground. Are there things that don't have a middle ground? Well, fucking duck. Is it like a leftist would come in and be like, well, taking away human rights, there's no middle ground with taking away human. It's like, shut the fuck up. Nobody's talking about that. You know, like, I mean, it's that constant like it's the end of the world complex, right? Do you know how many times we've been fed? I've lived through it at least 3 times. 3 times I've lived in my life, and people have said that the end of the world is coming in like the next 5 to 10 years, right? 2012 was one of them. I lived through that. Everybody.
There was one in 2011 as well.
So everybody thought that the world was going to end in 2012. Everybody thought the world was going to fucking end in the year 2000. You know, yeah. Everybody thought that the world was going to end because of COVID. Like, it's like every I would say 10 to 20 years, there's some group of people out there that come out with something new to say that it's the end of the fucking world, right? And it's not. Because you want to know what's going to happen? I'm going to be completely honest with you. This is what I wholeheartedly believe this. We are all going to die and perish at some point. At some point, humanity is going to completely eliminate itself off of the fucking board. And guess what? The Earth will still be here, floating along in space, just fine without us. The world isn't going to end. No solar storm is going to kill everything. A meteor isn't going to hit anytime soon. Can't say it'll never happen, but not anytime soon. So, yeah, the end of the world, you are not going to experience the end of the world, and the end of the world isn't going to be the end of the planet. It's going to be the end of the human race, to which case the planet will actually be able to heal and go back to what it was, right? Because nature is a fickle bitch, and she knows how to survive. She doesn't need our help. She never has. She never will. We need her help to survive, not the other way around. So stop trying to fix shit because you can't fix shit. Maybe stop trying to break it. You know, that's pretty much it, right? I mean, that's my idea on the end of the world and shit like that. I don't know how we went down that fucking road, but
yeah, neither do I. I think respect for sacred symbols and hierarchies, drawing parallels between conservative respect for order and occult reverence for sacred hierarchies, e.g. the demonic hierarchy or symbolism of Baphomet. I think this is so important because, first of all, what I said about me kind of responding to people that were all like, oh, Lilith is really mad that Trump won the election. Yeah, I think that is a lack of respect for the demonic hierarchy to be so sort of entitled to think that they give a shit about these silly human affairs. And then they're like, oh, but, you know, Lilith stands for women's rights and trans rights. And it's just like, you've assigned that to her. So there's that, first of all. And then, like, the symbolism of Baphomet, like, as above, so below. Things existing in balance, things existing in polarity. And what I find very interesting is that, from what I've seen, conservatives are willing to have a conversation. The left wants an argument, the left wants a fight. And there's no space for opposition without getting offended when it comes to the left. It's like...
It's a very unattractive feature.
It's just like you can't say anything like that's not within their narrative about, and then them not call you a fascist, like so. Which
is very fascist of them.
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's a whole thing, and yeah, I think that the symbolism of Baphomet is really important because the law of polarity, the whole thing that things have to exist in opposition, otherwise the universe doesn't fucking function. And that's what people don't understand. You have to have space for opposition, and you have to accept that it exists.
I feel like what happened with the political aspect of things, I think politics politics have always been fucked up. But I think what really fucked it up was when it became about the candidate and not about the policies.
Yeah.
Like, it used to be an argument, a conversation that you could have, and you could find a middle ground when we were talking about policy or executive order or things of that nature. And, like, we could talk about the ups and downs of it, like, because each action has, like, a positive and a negative to it. But once it became about the candidate and not about the actual policy of what was being in place, we just lost, like, the middle ground. And what happened was anybody that was sitting in the middle got pushed to one side or the other, right? You couldn't be in the middle because both sides would attack you. Right. And this is the thing, like, this is what we want people to understand. We're not sitting here saying, that, we support one side or the other. We honestly don't. We don't, like, I think both sides are a bunch of fucking idiots. Right.
It's rare that you find a politician that's actually a decent human being. And I think that's what people kind of forget. It's just like they seem to put one person on a pedestal and then one person, like, far, far beneath them. And it's just like, what, you really think that politicians are good people? You really expect someone to actually give a shit about you?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, no politician that's successful got where they were without manipulating, lying, because that is just the industry that you're in, and that's what it requires of you. If you want to win, you got to pull some strings.
Yeah, exactly. And another aspect of this, so respect for order, the cult reference for sacred hierarchies. Like, so that's a big thing. So I'm not very familiar with the Goetia, but I think the Goetia here is a perfect example. By the way, Valhalla, I've definitely read your messages, and I find that highly interesting, and I definitely want to know more. But I'm not very well versed when it comes to the Goetia because I've refused to read it for so long because it's inherently...
inherently.
I mean, it's Abrahamic. It's not even inherently Abrahamic. It just is. But you can't read the Goetia and ignore the hierarchies. There's a reason why there are dukes, earls, princes, kings, things of that nature, and then legions. It's something to pay attention to. There's hierarchies in everything. And I think a lot of the time what happens when we're talking about, working in magic, the hierarchies are ignored, right? Like, you have to kind of work your way up the ladder and not go from the top down because it doesn't work that way. Like, I mean, think about it in terms of real life. You could try. I don't know if you'd get very far. But, like, this is the only country that I know of that still has a fucking king. So... you're not going to walk up to Buckingham Palace and be like, hey, I want to talk to the king, right? They're not going to let you in, right? You can't go to the White House and say, hey, I want to talk to the president. They're not going to let you in. You got to go through the right channels. You got to go, go through the order of things to get to that top dog that you want to get to, right? It's also like it's very much like working through the cliff off, right? There's a certain way to kind of work through it. You start at one point and you kind of work through that. Alchemy has a certain process to it, right? You start at one point and you start working through alchemy, right? So, that's just kind of how it's done. So I think that, like, working through and respecting and having that reverence for hierarchies is extremely important and not ignoring them. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and they do exist for a reason. But I just want to ask a question. When you're talking about like the Goetia and the hierarchies of Goetia, within the Goetia rather, are you inferring that one should not go straight into working with kings, or?
I'm not saying that you can't, but I think that there's a hierarchy for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the hierarchies within the Goetia is that it's a lot to do with correspondences, so planetary correspondences, etc. When it comes to the Clipoth, yeah, the idea is that you do the tree in order, but look at the cleavers, like the spheres, you'll see that there is more than one path linking, sometimes up to 3 or 4.
Yep.
So you can, for example, with me and my Tree of Death work, instead of going from Venus to the sun, I went from the moon to the sun. In Clipothic terms, that is Gamaliel to Thagirion instead of Arabzarak to Thagirion. And I did that. Can't really explain why, it just sort of happened. Maybe it's just a masochistic thing because it means I have to do a lot more alchemy within Thagirion, but
I mean, yeah, it's not that you can't move that way. I mean, you can. It's just to say that, you know, there's a reason why path. Now, you're right. You might be in one spot where there's 3 or 4, because there's also paths that only have one path, and then there's other ones that have 2, and there's another 3, and then there's another one that I think has up to like 6. 6, 1, 2.
It's really hard to visualize it in your head.
There's 8. There's 8 different, like, because there's the ones going up, down, left, right, and then at angles, right? So there's 8 different paths, and so also working in that doesn't mean you go up. You can also go backwards, right? Now, obviously, you don't want to go backwards. You never want to take a step back, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to take a step back.
Sometimes it's necessary. I had to go back to Gamaliel, and I stayed there for about 3 months, and it was shit. It was cool. Some parts of it were cool, but most of it was shit. So,
you know, but understanding those hierarchies and those paths, lining their pockets, number one priority. 100%, man, 100%. So, you know, anyway, moving forward. Otherwise, we're gonna end up with a part 3 of this fucking thing.
Yeah.
I think we're almost to a part 3 anyway. Challenges specific to relationships, difference in political or social views within partnership.
We don't really have that.
Yeah, we don't really have that. You know, but I think this is an important thing to talk about. Maybe like some possibilities, right? So how to maintain harmony when partners have different interpretations of conservative or liberal values. Honestly, communication, like literal communication. Have a conversation. I can't say take your emotions out of it, because a lot of conversations that you have
emotive.
Are exactly. But I think it's learn how to talk about your emotions. Like talk about your emotions. Don't scream them at the top of your lungs, right? Like have a discussion about your emotions. And, you know, if there's that respect in that relationship, not just even a romantic one, but even a friendship, you know, we might disagree, but we'll respect each other's point of view and come to a certain level of understanding, right?
I mean, I do think that in terms of not necessarily the political stuff, even though I do think that for us personally, it is important that we align on that, just for both of us, but, you know, maybe not for everyone. But in terms of just like general values, it is important to align on that. Like if I was, let's use the example of polyamory again. If I was like, hey babe, do you fancy trying polyamory? You'd be out the fucking door, as would I. So, you know, there's that. And I also think that when we're talking about traditional values as well, I think we're talking about the traditional ideas of relationships and how, you know, it seems to be, I don't think people are as much of a fan of marriage as they used to be. you know, women are have less desire to get married. And what was, oh yeah, the other thing as well, like people make a point of the divorce rate being so high, and I honestly think that that's because people don't know how to be in relationships. People don't know how to function in one, and they don't think that, you know, relationships aren't easy. You know, they're not all fluffy and happy and honeymoon phase forever. You know, you go through challenges and you go through growth, but that's not the time to walk out the door. And, you know, people want that. I think people just misunderstand that stuff, and they want things to be, you know, nice all the time. Some people don't like it when they're actually treated well as well. They think it's boring. It's not boring. Your nervous system is mistaking it for being bored, and that is something that's wrong with you, not of the other person.
Right.
And then there's like the increase of things like OnlyFans and that sort of thing, where it's kind of like, you know, oh, I can make money instead of instead of getting married, you know, and it's sort of like, well, how long is that going to last? So
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, people kind of completely ignore the importance and the validity that exists around kind of like, you know, traditional nuclear family, and that, you know, everything is kind of about like independence and doing what you want to do, and you're not worrying about like how the other person feels in the situation. You know, I saw something earlier today that, you know, it made a lot of sense. That, you know, people that think that in a relationship that they shouldn't have to change. If you go into a relationship thinking that you shouldn't have to change, then you shouldn't be in a relationship. Because there is a certain level of like, yes, I mean, you don't have to change like the core value of who you are.
no,
right?
you don't have to become a different person. But if I come into a relationship with my stuff, so let's use like trauma reactions as an example. If I come into my relationship with my trauma reactions and go, oh, I don't have to change, this relationship's not going to last.
Exactly.
You know, I have to find healthy ways of working through that, because I've got someone else that it affects now. It's not just about me anymore.
Exactly. We also go through some kind of change. Well, exactly. I completely agree. Well, guys, looking at the time, it looks like we're all going to have to break this into a part 3. So next week, so we did really just kind of like 6 is what we did. We got 7, 8, and 9 in whole that we have to do, right? So we'll do those next week. We'll go through them, you know. Will you guys be doing meetups with followers?
Kinda.
Yeah, I mean, so if we're at an event, we'll let you know. Yeah, we'll let you know. Like, so for example, in Glastonbury, we'll be at Glastonbury. And if you're familiar with the channel and you happen to catch us there, then I mean, feel free to say hi. You know, it's not a problem. You know, but I mean, it's
we are there for a reason though. So
yep.
Like it wouldn't be specifically for meetups. Like I'm there doing a workshop, you're there doing readings.
Yep.
So it's kind of like we're not there to specifically.
We're working.
Yeah, we're working. So.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't say hi though.
Yeah.
Right. Like, or you know, have a conversation about, you know, something that's on your mind or something.
I do actually think tickets for Glastonbury are sold out now though.
Are they?
I'm pretty sure they are.
Okay.
Or they're close to selling out.
So there you go. So if you're in the UK. You know, we're also looking into starting kind of like our own kind of like online convention conference.
Yes, Glastonbury in the UK.
So that's something that in the future we're looking at doing kind of like an online kind of occult conference kind of thing, and then bringing that to be physical and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't have a problem, you know, meeting with fans or anything like that and having a conversation with you guys. But
Hey, when my book's published, and however long that will take me, I might be doing book signings. So
same here, hopefully.
both of us. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
just keep following us for the next 5 years, and eventually we'll get there.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, eventually it'll happen. So, yeah. That being said, next week will be part 3 of this. Then we're not going to be talking about politics for a minute, or at least like conservatism, because
Yeah, we'll go back more into occult focused.
occult focused stuff, because three
Three
episodes,
weeks talking about
it's a little much. But we'll do a part 3 of this. If you guys want a part 3, we'll do that. Let's do that again.
Yeah.
So,
leave a comment if you want a part 3, or if you're sick of this, just be like, no, please, just shut up.
Yeah, just shut up and move on. So, just let us know what direction you want us to go. So, with that being said, thank you guys very much for coming on. You guys are fucking amazing. As always, hail thy fucking self. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out.